Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Sjotyme checking in. I'll be using my real name today, Eric. What we're going to be doing today is starting a new show. We're going to do it's called the Baddest. It's going to basically be a podcast between my friend Matt, also known as the Mediocre dude. Why don't you say hi to the audience today?
Hey guys, what's up?
So I've known Matt, aka the Mediocre dude, since.
I only get to do it every time.
Well, you know what? They have to kind of get to know you a little bit to start out, right? But yeah.
They have to know the depths of my mediocrity.
You're gonna see Mediocre dude on the channel a lot coming forward. He might even be on some of our shows, but he knows Shondo. He's known him for a while. Excuse me, I got a bubbly throat there. I've known Matt. We're just gonna call him Matt moving forward. He's gonna call me Eric moving forward. So this is our real first names,
Quote unquote.
So, we met basically like a long time ago. I think it was before high school or after high school or during high school.
Right before, I think.
Right before.
'Cause you were a year older than me.
Yeah. I've always been a year older than you, so.
And that's not going to change.
That's never gonna change. Just darn it. But yeah, I mean, our history is like I just used to go to his house a lot. We had apartments right next door, so I just go down the hallway, and he would be playing video games. I'd watch him. Sometimes we'd play together. I remember watching Conker's Bad Fur Day with him for the first time.
Oh yeah.
As well. But that's just a little mini introduction.
And we had our Perfect Dark rivalry.
Yeah, we played.
We were both racing to complete Perfect Agent first, and he finished his last level on my cartridge.
Oh my god, I totally forgot about that. We did do that. I think I would race back and forth from your place to mine to see your progress.
Yeah.
But that's a little backstory. Just to start out, just to introduce Matt here. We're also planning on possibly a new show called Sjotyme with Mediocre Dude. So look forward to that in the future. It's basically just going to be Matt having stories that he wrote about his real life. We're just going to try to figure something out. But
a life of mediocrity.
But without further ado, we'll talk about our personal lives as we go forward with this. But this is the Badcast. We're doing a series of just a podcast, so pretty self-explanatory. Basically, the first topic that we want to do right now, we want to talk about video game monetization. So that's the whole idea. We were doing some brainstorms before the recording, and I guess just to start out, we can just kind of go over I'll just kind of talk really quick what some forms of monetization are. Like the most basic form being over-the-counter transaction on day
your $60 game.
Day one release, $60 game. So we're talking about any kind of way of changing hands with money over time. With the video game industry, essentially, we started seeing pre-orders. Feel free to fill in the gaps. I think it went from regular sales to pre-orders, or used game market, pre-orders, DLC.
Well, the developers don't really have any say in the used game market. That kind of market will develop on its own.
Okay, so we're talking more so about that affect the developers firsthand, or from the developers, like monetization.
Both. It's kind of like where the players and the developers meet in the marketplace.
The players and the developers meet in the marketplace. So that's aside from the used market, you would say. Okay, we can segregate that. I mean, that could still be a topic, but for another type of thing. But okay, so then there's over the counter. Pay you $60 to get your new game, or whatever, $40 if it dropped in price. Then there's DLC,
and it will. That's something that's expected. But I think that there's a certain value to getting it on day one that is potentially worth the difference in price to some people.
Right, and yeah, for me, getting Doom on day one or Dark Souls 3 on day one helped my channel out just a little bit, just because I got to play it.
Oh sure, yeah,
early
absolutely.
on, be able to post videos for it. Not only that, but you're playing it at a time where the game's still hot and the community is still thriving with it, so you can it just also adds that value of excitement and being part of a community if you get involved earlier.
Oh yeah, games can definitely be dull after their lifespan's over.
Easily. So yeah, and a lot of times I pick up games once they go on sale. But that's the lifespan's over at that point, and I don't get to enjoy the community aspect of it. It's just because everybody's already played it, and it's hey, did you play this game? It's yeah, years ago, dude.
Well, it's pretty cool still.
Yeah. So aside from that, then there's DLC. That's another form of monetization that's very controversial. And within DLC, there's an array of things like buying extra maps, microtransactions, possibly the currency in Mortal Kombat. You could basically buy fatalities. I know I can't think of any game specifically, but like there are some games where you can buy like money in the game. That has to do with a lot of free to play stuff.
The free to play. Oh yeah, sure. Well, that's a separate distinction to me.
Yeah, I'm all over the place with this, so step in at any time. But so just to keep it basic, not to go too deep in each subject. DLC, microtransactions. There's free to play games. There is early access we talked about.
Yep.
What were some other things that we were discussing?
Like microtransactions are a big one. Early access is kind of.
Yeah, microtransactions is a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early access is kind of a unique one for indie developers, just to get their game funded, basically. I think that's a very vulnerable stage in development, getting that game out there, and which is distinct from games that have large corporate publishers.
Right, and I would actually agree with that as far as like indie games go, because they're just getting started out. So the free-to-play aspect, it makes sense to let people play for free so they can be exposed to the game, understand the game, because a lot of it's like foot in the door phenomenon, I think, personally. Because if we're talking free-to-play, right? Or are you talking about early access?
Free-to-play at some point, yes.
It's free-to-play, but then it leads into microtransactions. But you were talking about how a lot of indie players, it benefits them to do free-to-play, right?
No, the early access.
Oh, you're still on early access. Oh, okay. Okay, but yeah. Okay, so early access. The way I look at early access, I really haven't been exposed to it too much, but I am aware of it. Like, let's say, like the beta phase for the game. Like, you're playing a game called Freya, or what is it called?
Feria.
I know. I can never remember it. I remember Hearthstone because Matt here is playing Hearthstone. It's like a card game, like Hearthstone. So if you've ever played that game. It's in its beta phase right now.
I guess the biggest example of early access, or maybe the first example even, was Minecraft. It was hugely successful in its alpha and beta stages.
Okay.
Or it were probably made like positive revenues even while it was in alpha and beta.
Okay.
So that was a phenomenal thing.
Yeah. See, that's good and all. I mean, if you can carry that part of the conversation, because I'm early access, I don't really have too much knowledge on, except for other than I do know some things.
I bet that's more of a recent development on Steam with its Greenlight program.
Yeah, as far as having to pay for early access, that's the main focus here, because I'm aware of early access of when you're just playing let's say the Doom beta.
Right.
Some people were invited to do that. There's no monetary value on it.
Right.
And
a lot of that's just stress testing, and that's just
right.
They want as many people playing it as they can to test their servers. So they're not going to charge because they do want as many people as possible.
Right. So, and then you got games like Feria, where it is going to be free to play upon release, but there are some people that want to have early access to it, to play it, maybe get ahead of the game or whatnot, but they're charging a fee. It was like $15 or something.
But it's possible, maybe not for Feria specifically, but for these games that are early in development, that they wouldn't get finished if they didn't charge for early access. It's still an important part of the development cycle, though.
It's important, I think, because it's like any beta phase. It gives the developer a chance to hear feedback from the public and everything, which is key. But what I was saying is, I feel that there should be some incentive other than just having the early access.
Well, there are
because you're technically paying the developer to help them figure out their game better.
Sure.
And the only trade-off is really you just getting early access and getting.
Well, you get to play the game, and we can establish that playing a game sooner is worth something. Your maybe not Call of Duty. Call of Duty doesn't seem to drop, but there are a lot of games that do drop over time, and that indicates that the sooner you get to play a game, the more valuable it is.
So right there, so I mean, the basis of this podcast, this first podcast, is like finding the value in the politics, I guess, of
the psychology behind
even
it.
the psychology
like how players
behind
feel about paying for what, when, and why.
Yeah, so I mean, like basically, we're talking like I guess the first one is early access. What do you guys leave in the comments below? I mean, what do you feel? What are your thoughts and feelings about early access? Like, and what are the benefits? The benefits that we're looking at so far in it is just like, hey, you can get better at the game.
You can support the game. Make sure it gets finished.
Support the game. That was a big one that you actually brought up before this, which I actually agree. I think, especially with indie developers, they're just starting out. If the game is good, it's like, give a dog a bone.
Exactly.
Kind of deal. And I totally 100% agree with that. Like with Capcom and stuff, like there's a lot of games that I feel like, I'll buy those games just to support them. Like I bought Operation Raccoon City.
Was that the one that just came out?
No, that was Umbrella Corps.
Umbrella Corps,
which I heard is terrible.
Which I heard was bad too.
And I've even seen it.
But you'll get it. You got to support that. Capcom.
But I got it, and I actually bought it at a full price tag. But I had a gift card, luckily.
Believe it or not, gift cards are still currency.
Exactly, and without digressing too much, Operation Raccoon City it's an alright game, maybe for $20. I guess it's kind of on topic here, the value of gaming, but leave down below what you guys think about like the morality or the psychology.
And we were talking about that actually, like a new review system about how much you should pay for a game. Yeah.
For a review system?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right, we did. So we were bouncing off ideas with each other about like, because there's like a lot of like gaming review sites that like give it like a score.
Yeah, and we thought that it was strange that these were always presuming a $60 price tag, and that a game might get a lower score because of that. Whereas maybe if it were at a $20 price tag, it would be reviewed differently. So taking into consideration the price might be interesting in reviewing it.
Right, because at the end of the day, all that we care about is like, well, what's it worth?
Yeah.
And some people will be like, well, it's $60 now, I'll wait for it to be $20, which is what I do a lot with games. So the rating system would probably do really well by being like, I was joking about like with RoboCop. Like if anybody's seen RoboCop, it's like that guy on the TV. He's like, I'll buy that for $1.
Right.
So I was figuring that the rating system would just be like, kind of at the end of the day, how much do we feel that we would pay for it? Because in some circumstances, I would be like, oh, I would buy it on day one. Mm-hmm. Like with Doom, I was like, yeah, I'll buy it on day one. Dark Souls 3, I'd buy it on day one.
There might even be some that you genuinely feel are worth more than $60. That's a deal.
Which actually some people do, and those are the people that actually benefit. Which I guess we can go into our next topic, which is pre-orders.
Yeah.
That kind of leads right into that actually, because pre-orders is where you can, if you do feel that the game is worth more, maybe
you can get your collector's edition.
You can get your collector's edition. But if you already feel that the game is worth more, you're in a win-win situation. Because you're actually paying them more, supporting them more, but you're actually getting things out of it.
Yeah.
Now, some people would probably argue against that, saying that that's like, garbage. Like the whole the whole pre-order thing, like you don't really need pre-order anymore.
No, of course.
Which is why they have the incentives such as like collector's editions and that kind of thing.
Right.
So with that out of the way,
I think pre-order is basically synonymous with paying $60 for a game at launch.
I agree.
That's all it really means.
Yeah. If I really know I'm going to buy it on day one, I'll pre-order it just to kind of get the pre-order bonus.
Right.
Which is another thing. I mean, like pre-order bonuses are basically like they're only good if if you already know that you're going to buy it on day one. You might as well snag that pre-order bonus. But pre-order bonuses in general is an incentive to get you to buy the game at $60. That's kind of like you got to do better than skins,
right?
In my personal opinion,
it's a little dangerous when you are selling something before anybody knows what it is that they're buying.
Absolutely, but I've never personally bought like a pre-order bonus though, or not a pre-order bonus, but like a collector's edition. Like, have you ever bought a collector's edition before?
I've considered it, but nope, never actually did.
Okay, so because to be honest, I've never actually thought that I would want to spend more money than needed.
Right.
On it, like I'm sure there are some people that want to like spend more.
Tim gets like lots of collector's editions.
Does he?
Yeah, he's big into that.
I mean, for the most part, a lot of collector's editions are like toys and stuff.
Yeah.
or like
He's got lots of that junk
or
in
like a
his room and
sword.
shit.
Yeah,
But I think it gets ultimately neglected.
I think so ultimately too. I think the best forms of collector's edition is like maps and strategy guides, like physical strategy guides, or like art
Well,
books.
the strategy guides are pretty
Art books.
outdated at this point. Art books are good, yeah.
Art books are very valuable, so that kind of adds to the whole value thing and the value of doing that. So like, I mean, all sorts of ways to entice a person to want to get something. So aside from like pre-orders and that thing, we have. I remember like DLC was first introduced. I heard from like Grand Theft Auto 4.
Had to be before that. Long before that.
I heard that like the Ballad of Gay Tony, that DLC, was like the first DLC officially to go on record.
That was an expansion pack, yeah, for sure.
Okay, for consoles, we'll say.
Yeah.
Because like PC has been doing the whole expansion.
Exactly.
And to address like expansions are completely legit. Like for like
expansions are great.
Final Fantasy 14 expansions, nothing wrong with that. No, like the psychology behind it, I guess, is like, you love the game a lot. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to want to play more of it, right? Like, because I know that that Bloodborne came out with an expansion for $20,
Yep, exactly,
which is considered DLC. And I haven't bought it, but I've seen like gameplay footage on YouTube, and it's just like, I really enjoy.
Yeah, there's some high quality stuff.
That's definitely one that I would do. And I bought for Dark Souls 1. I bought the DLC for that. Haven't played it yet because you actually have to get to the point first,
right?
Which is another thing that's interesting. So I guess since if we're talking about
there have actually been some people that complained about Bloodborne DLC because you still have to get to that point in the game.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of people that literally couldn't play it.
Exactly. So that's another thing. I guess that's huge.
But I think most people who are buying DLC have gotten to that point. Like, you're presuming that you can get to that point.
And
I did get all the DLC for Borderlands, but I expect, I got to the end of the game first. Of course I did. Why would you expect not to? Why would you buy DLC before you finish the game?
There would be no reason to, unless, of course... but there is Day 1 DLC. That's another thing. Day 1 DLC, like Mortal Kombat.
And I know you're going to be harsh on that.
Yeah, okay, let's get into the real territory here. It's like, I think now we're going to get really heated here. Like, Day 1 DLC. This is kind of what actually started our conversation originally. We actually talked about this while we were getting cheeseburgers together.
Delicious cheeseburgers.
I'm not a big fan of Day 1 DLC.
I'm a little more forgiving because a game needs to go gold and then it comes out like a month later or 2 months later or something, which means they have all this time to develop more stuff. So just to say that it's Day 1 DLC doesn't mean it was produced at the same time as the disc game. And this is all like, this gap is because of the physical market, basically. But also, I think it's okay because the developers can choose exactly what their product is and what is added to it. Regardless of when that was developed, it can be decided whether it is add-on or not.
Right, okay. Of course, and then this goes into the territory of like what should be considered added on and what shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me personally, the whole the on disc DLC, for instance, why would that be considered DLC? If it could, because I think that if it could be fit on the disc, it shouldn't be. You shouldn't be charged more. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think the developer can determine what their product is however they choose.
Okay, and then that's freedom of commerce, right? So, like, or freedom of.
And don't get me wrong,
the
they're not always smart about these decisions, but they're decisions that they have the right to make.
At the end of the day, yeah, they're out for profit. They need to make a bottom line,
and they're deciding these things, looking at the total amount of revenue that they can make. And if like they have to calculate how many people will not buy this game at all because this isn't in there. And it's like a calculated risk. They have to. They make decisions based on these things, and I think a lot of them are wrong, but they have the right to make them.
They have the right to make it because it's a private market. Private corporations, they could do what they need to do.
They're basically business decisions, and they can be poor business decisions, but they're business decisions nonetheless.
They have to meet consumer demands, but also at the same time, it's kind of like, I think it's kind of like in a way. Kind of ruining the experience a little bit in a way, just because like when you start talking about like, is it going to, or like they have the right to put out what they want, like what's included in the main game, and then whatever's considered add-ons. You know that like since their bottom line is to make profit, a corporation has a lot of leeway now for greed. To just kind of be like,
I think maybe they take advantage of the market a little bit.
They'll take.
I think players have in the past been very forgiving, and I think maybe that's not the case anymore.
Well, okay, oh yeah, and I was having a brain fart because I was trying to think of what I was thinking. But going back to what I was thinking of, it's like the industry now. It's a huge industry. The video game industry is very big. However, it's also at a time where it could very well crash. With
you mean the AAA market?
With no more the AAA market, yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at. So the AAA market, so it's almost as if like, kind of like the whole reason for DLC now. It's almost as if like it's like a crutch for them. Like they're completely dependent on it in order to even sustain themselves anymore. Because like if you get for AAA at least, like you make a top-notch game, somebody doesn't or it's not received well, that company can very well go under at this point.
You need to sell millions to break even at this point,
or even
some of those.
Yeah, and to make up that margin, you need to put out DLC or microtransactions, and that seems to be the direction that a lot of AAA developers are headed in. I was gonna think about something,
but that's not across the board. Some are dedicated to delivering the best value they can, like CD Projekt Red, Naughty Dog, I would say.
Naughty Dog. I don't really play too many Naughty Dog except for The Last of Us. They hit,
but that was super solid. Like, wasn't all of the multiplayer add-ons free?
That I don't know of. I played the multiplayer once on the show, right. But it wasn't entirely.
I could be wrong, but
I never looked into the multiplayer like DLC aspects of it. So
it did have its story-related DLC.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, like, does a game really need to be, or like, hopefully, I don't know. It's just kind of sad that DLC is needed to support like a game series these days.
I also think it's great that they have the ability that a game isn't just released and then it's over, it's done. That they have the ability to add to it over time. The development cycle is that much longer for that.
And that's a positive aspect to it all, for sure. And I would agree with that. If the game is good enough and it can be bought and sold, I guess, for extra stuff like. But I guess that kind of goes with what we were talking about in general. It's like, is the content worth it or not? That's the bottom line. If you look at and then like for me when I think like free to plays, I just started playing Hearthstone, and like
poorly
because and he literally means poorly, in the money sense, ka-ching. Because like here's my philosophy with free to plays. It's like I understand that you have to be a patron. You know, they do take the effort to make all this shit, and they are expecting some kind of money in return. But like, and there's a lot of creativity that goes involved, a lot of artists that need to get paid, and their business model is based around them needing to get paid by these microtransactions.
Of course.
But I get that. But I am so stubborn and like frugal with my money when I do that stuff. Like my goal is to not try to spend money.
Yes, you've definitely been very skeptical.
Not to be an asshole or anything, because I know that I'm playing something for free, so I'm grateful for it. But it's just like I got to look out for that sense of like, what can they nickel and dime me for? Like they have to have a plan to make money. So what? I need to be careful. And
some of those free players are basically just advertising. They need a player base for the game to thrive. For every player who doesn't pay anything, there's a player who pays more than the average. So it'll all even out. They just need that player base. That's the most important thing. That's why the free-to-play works.
Right, and guys like you play Hearthstone a lot. I play Hearthstone like very rarely.
I have to make him, basically.
Yeah. It's always like I get a text message out of nowhere. It's like, you play Hearthstone today, and I'll be like, all right. But I actually plan on doing that on the show once I can get a webcam or like do a thingy. But like, I mean, I think it's a fun game, and I can definitely see myself throwing a couple of dollars at it. But it's also got a mode where you can just play for free nonstop, and I'm kind of that stubborn type where I'll just do that because like with Final Fantasy 14, I guess another monetization we can go into is subscription fees for like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14.
Yep.
So, and sorry,
Not yet. Not yet.
And sorry, guys, if we're bouncing all over the place. This is our
yeah, we do that.
This is literally like our first podcast that we're doing. So, forgive us.
And we are both completely insane.
We're both completely insane. So we apologize if we're bouncing from subject to subject. We're basically new at this. We're kind of just sitting here looking at each other's mugs. So it's like,
I don't know about you, but I'm imagining you naked. It kind of helps.
Well, it's always imagining the audience naked, not me.
Well, you're the audience.
Well, okay. Well, audience, you guys are naked now. Click subscribe.
Oh, God.
Like the video if you're naked. I don't.
Well, this got awkward.
Well, whatever. Part of the entertainment, I suppose.
Burn the internet down. It's over.
Yeah, the way I see it, as long as they're not being completely outlandish. I mean, hey, I think this is, don't mean to toot our own horns, but maybe it's a little funny. But
Hope so.
we hope so. Tell us what you think in the comments. We would like to know what you think about this.
Who would you like to fire?
Yeah. So,
Yeah, we're going to fire you from your own show.
well, mediocre dude, though. We're going to, he's out the window. He's the first gone.
It's over.
So, but back to the thing I was thinking.
We're talking about free-to-play games, microtransactions, all that nonsense.
Then I started going to subscriptions.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet?
We're still on microtransactions. We're going to be on this for a while.
Okay. All right. So let's just keep going.
All right. I thought of an interesting analogy. I think psychologically it looks differently when you call a game free-to-play versus when you call it a paid game. For example, if you see maybe a $40 game on Steam for $5, bam, you're getting it.
You're gonna pick.
Oh, that looks like such a sweet deal.
You're gonna pick that shit up.
So if a game is $40 on sale for $5, it looks like a really good deal. But if a free-to-play game wants you to spend $5, it looks absurd. It's because it's like what it's like a relative comparison of the value that you imagine the game to have, whether you believe in that value or not.
It's a very interesting mentality going into a free-to-play game, and you kind of just nailed it on the coffin there. It's almost as if we like I feel entitled to not spend money in a free-to-play game.
Right. I think.
But going back to what you're saying, it's like, oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
When you buy a full retail game, you feel entitled to all of the content that game offers. When you play a free-to-play game, you're entitled to nothing, unless you pay a little more,
okay,
or play a lot. And I think it's funny that some of the games that you play a lot, you pay the least for. Even free-to-play games, if you pay more, you need to play less to compete. So if you play a lot,
the more that you play, the better you are at it. You can get, because they actually do offer like in-game coins,
prizes
that you can win. So if you are actually good at that stuff, you can win those things, which means you ultimately spend less money.
So the more you play a game, the less you
incentivizes.
pay for it. But there are games that I play less that I spend more money on. There's a little bit of an inversion.
Right, yeah,
there.
like those AAA action titles, or like you're playing Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
The one that just came out, number 5, Phantom Pain. Like I was watching you play that one, but you're probably playing like free to play games more though.
Like an order of magnitude more.
Yeah, actually, you're right. And I guess like it's the $60 price tag that you pay for like the Phantom Pain. It's because all the production value that went into it. They're not just going to let you play that for free because the value is actually coming from the actual real time experience.
Right.
Whereas like all the microtransactions in a free to play game, they're all put there to entice you to buy. They basically make the game itself is free, but you can always improve upon it and make it better. What's the opposite of tangible? It's like an untangible.
Intangible?
Intangible.
It is a word.
It's like an intangible. I know, but I was thinking ephemeral. Like you can't grab it, but that's totally different. But anyways, like like you can buy the card packs in Hearthstone. Like that's a tangible thing, I guess, in the game. We'll say just metaphorically tangible. But it's the way I explain it to you, the way I look at free to play games like Hearthstone, you're stepping into like a card shop.
Yeah.
And the free to play aspect of it is just like, here's the environment, here are the people. It's free to play the games with those people. You know, unless you're in a tournament or something, you got to buy into it.
Right.
But if you just want to just hang out and play like a game of chess, right? You go to the park.
Sure.
It's free. You just go to the park, you play a game of chess.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to get better at skills, maybe buy better. Now, chess doesn't have all this.
Buy better pieces.
Granted, so this metaphor doesn't really work anymore. But
You gotta get your diamond chess pieces.
So, but yeah, you get your diamond chess pieces. That's going to cost a little bit more. So it ups the competition, ups the ante, everything like that. So that's kind of the world that it is. So I get it, and I would say that I'm not against it, but I am very weary and skeptic at how they could take advantage of people, and because like for me, for one thing, I'm so like jaded by the free to play term. It's just like, oh, free to play, that's got to be the most expensive game possible.
And it is.
It can
sometimes.
It can be if you're not careful.
I think it can be said that some of them play to gambling addictions and things like that.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the thing I was saying to look out for.
And I don't know that games like, say, Hearthstone are guilty of that, but like your Facebook games, maybe.
Facebook games, never even play them, but I know but I know Farmville and Gems. What is it? Like Gem something?
I don't know. There's Candy Crush.
Candy Crush. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess since we're on that, there are a lot of free to play games by like celebrities now. Like I heard Kim Kardashian, I believe, had a free to play game that like made her millions.
Yeah, I believe it.
So like you got to be careful of those. Now, like maybe like Hearthstone and stuff. Like and to go back to that, I don't know what the game's about, but it's a Kim Kardashian game that I believe that like tons of girls picked up and like spent tons of money on and like just made her like
probably some kind of dress up app. I don't know.
Maybe something like that. I'll have to look into it. But games like Hearthstone have more of a mature appeal. It's almost like taking the real life aspect of cards to the computer, because that's like the direction of everything's heading in. So I guess the final verdict for that free to play with the microtransactions is just like, or my final verdict is just be careful.
Yeah, plan carefully. That's one thing that I always do.
And if you like it enough, then you can move forward with it and buy into it. Just know what you're buying into. Anything else you got to say about that?
I think I'm out.
Okay, so then let's move on to subscriptions.
Actually, I guess there was one thing about games with full retail component, but they also have a free-to-play component. Metal Gear Solid 5 does, with its forward operating base, but people may be more familiar with Grand Theft Auto Online. And Grand Theft Auto Online has posted $500 million revenue.
Right, okay.
And that's a separate component from the main campaign that you pay the $60 for. That's fascinating to attach a free-to-play model to it.
And that's free-to-play, actually?
It's free-to-play with microtransactions, as far as I know.
With microtransactions. Because I know that...
It's just another component of the Grand Theft Auto 5 game.
Like, with the microtransactions, like buying, like, maybe a skin or, like, a certain car?
Yeah.
So, like microtransactions for sure, like with games like Grand Theft Auto 5, like the online aspect, like a lot of the microtransactions are kind of like, I mean, if they're free to play, I feel that microtransactions have somewhat of a place. Now, like games that you buy at full retail value that have microtransactions, like let's say a Street Fighter game or Mortal Kombat, those are the first things that come to mind for me. It's like you pay a full retail price for them, but you still got to buy like the day one DLC that we talked about earlier. The one that comes to mind for me, I got upset about, was Mortal Kombat X. It's like now it comes out as XL for the same price point as the new one, but it includes. But basically, all it is just new characters and new skins, and that's all you're paying for. It's like that should not be. I think like
by the time XL came out, I guess 10. I don't know. Would have already dropped to say $40, and on like Amazon, maybe even on whatever network you use.
Right, and I'm totally aware that I'm changing the subject again here really quick, but like I know I was talking for microtrans. Let me wrap up that really quick. That'll be the next thing that we talk about. We're going into because we had a good conversation going with that, like games starting at $60, then going to $40 and then coming out with the DLC bundled with it becoming $60.
Right.
But before
kind of gives a way to reissue the game and collect more money for the developers.
So that's kind of another way of like hiding it, basically hiding it, the DLC in there, for the most part, making you feel like you got a better value, and that kind of makes me upset. Actually, it's like that, over time the depreciation of the actual game. They're like, okay, well now we have to get people to still buy the game, so what do we do? Just throw the DLC in there. It's almost as if like they purposely held out and waited for that time to come, just to make a little extra money, and it makes sense on a business standpoint to do those kind of things, but as a consumer, it's just kind of like you're starting to see the true game that they're playing is that it's just like they're controlling the market rather well, just like the supply and demand aspect of things, which I don't like, and I think that you had a point for it.
Well, I think the developer capturing as much of that revenue as they can is a positive thing.
Okay, sorry.
I think some people look at it as a corporate publisher, that level. The companies that are already very successful, the rich get richer, that sort of thing. So it can have a negative connotation that these companies are capturing all that money. But if you look at it from like an independent developer standpoint, if you were developing a game, you'd want to capture as much revenue as you could, not because you're greedy, but because you want to develop this game and you want to develop the next game. You want to be able to subsist. So I think it depends somewhat on the size as well.
Yeah, I mean, and you're looking at it from the point of view of the developer, trying to make a buck, really. But it is kind of like a two-way street. Like for the consumer's point of view, it's like you're obviously holding on to something that could have been released with the original.
Not necessarily. I mean, like, consider the fact that if those things were included, maybe it would have been delayed by a month or 2 months. And there's value to be had in having a game that much sooner.
But basically, I guess what you're trying to say is arbitrary.
It is kind of arbitrary.
That's kind of what I'm getting at.
But like release dates are a really important thing. Like if a game gets released by a month, some fans are really upset about that and would pay more to get it a month earlier, even if it had less content.
What do you mean by some games get released by a month?
Delayed by a month.
Oh, we're delayed. I thought you said released.
Maybe.
I think you did say released, but that's okay. Delayed. Okay. A lot of people don't like delays, and I've actually heard people like give death threats for
it's a big deal
for games being delayed. When it comes to delaying video games, I'm more than happy to allow that to happen. The main reason for that is because if you rush out a game, that's another thing. These days, a lot of developers are rushing games out to meet their quotas, to meet their sales figures, and to also beat the competition out. I would be more than happy to allow the developers to delay that by a month or so. While some people might go out and send death threats and that kind of thing, I would be more than happy to allow that for a better game to come out. And I think a lot of other people are actually on board with that.
I think it's just a very complicated decision. There's a lot of factors to weigh. For instance, you have your holiday season. Sometimes you simply cannot release a game in January. It's just not going to work.
Right, for sales figures.
And that's important. You want to get your game out there. Mm-hmm. And like you can't say it's just about money. I mean that's what the game is for.
Yeah, and I'm starting to actually see a kind of a theme going on here between you and me with this, is that I'm kind of feeling like, not to say that you're the bad guy or anything, but you take more of an approach to see from the perspective of the developer.
Well, I'm interested in that.
No, that's great, and I was thinking that we need that sort of side to the argument where I'm kind of looking more at a consumer base, and we're kind of we're changing perspectives back and forth, which is great and stuff. But
I guess there's also a little bit of artistic integrity in play.
No, but we do need to have, and I think it's really healthy for this bad cast to have that perspective too, because you're actually you're making me think. Things I wouldn't think of before. So no, but you're absolutely right. You can't not release it for the holidays, but that's where like the morality comes into play of it. It's like, and the quality of games suffer because of corporations needing to make money, and that's just like the quality of the games are diminished as a result, and since they need to release it before holidays.
But having a quality product correlates with making money. These things are not at odds.
That's true. but it's just like, because it's the holiday season, it can't be released in January because they're going to lose money.
Right.
It makes perfect sense on a dollar standpoint, and but gamers just have to bite the bullet for the most part, because I guess what will happen is that they'll be like, all right, we'll just patch it later. Nowadays, it's easy to do.
And that kind of works.
That kind of works, but I mean, that's at the same time, that's just kind of the direction that all developers are taking now. Developers are taking at this point, but so with that said, I mean, yeah, delaying of games, good, bad. I'd say that delay the game if it needs more work.
Right. But I think it's just a very complicated decision. A lot goes into it. There are a lot of factors in play. You have the potential revenue lost as a result of game-breaking bugs, or just how bad it can be, what content is available.
Game-breaking bugs is a huge thing for sure.
Yeah. I think that absolutely tanked Assassin's Creed Unity.
Yes, Assassin's Creed Unity.
That was notorious.
Yeah, I never played that game, but I watched a lot of YouTube videos on it. Just like faceless characters, people dropping through the environments. I don't know if it was particularly Unity, but like they were kissing, but they weren't even really like connected or anything. Kind of put a bad taste in the mouth of a lot of Assassin's Creed players. Like I don't play Assassin's Creed anymore, but yeah, you bring up a good example of what the results of trying to rush a game out.
And sure, you can patch it and fix it, and to my understanding, it's a great game now, but the reputation has already been tarnished.
So we're going to go back to, or we're going to go to the final thing here that we're going to talk about, which is subscriptions, kind of how that ties into the monetization. That's just be our way of wrapping it up. I guess I'll just start with this. Is like with me with Final Fantasy 14. Matt here got me into that. I've been wanting to play like an online MMO, which I've never done before. Never played the World of Warcraft or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy. So let's go ahead and just let's do my first MMO, see if it's for me, right? So I picked it up, paid on PS3, paid the $13 fee. Monthly fee. It was great and all, but I felt obligated to. It's a great game, don't get me wrong, but I felt obligated to play it all the time. And I'm not the kind of guy like Matt is, where he's dedicated to one game, whereas I am all over the place. So I felt in order to get full value for Final Fantasy 14, I had to constantly be playing it. So I actually ended up canceling the subscription fee. So my thoughts on subscription fees: it makes perfect sense. Nothing against it. You need to be able to fund the game because, yes, you pay the full retail price, but there's constantly people working on it, services, all that stuff. So that's what all that covers. Not against the subscription fee at all. It's just more a matter of how much it is and if it's like legit, or if the game is for you and subscription fees are for you. It's just more a matter of that. So subscription fees are really general in that manner.
So. And one thing I noticed, like, while I was playing Final Fantasy 11 almost exclusively for years, I spent less money on games overall.
Okay.
Because if you wanted to fill that time, now you could argue that time was not spent as well as it could have been. I think that's a fair argument.
Like not as much variety.
Yeah.
Okay.
The average content quality may be not quite as high as if you were to jump around across 20 games, but the high points are still as high, I would say.
High points in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And especially like the multiplayer content with your friends, top notch.
Yeah, there's definitely, when you commit to one game, you just keep going deeper and deeper into that one game.
Mm-hmm. And it can be very rewarding, absolutely.
It could be rewarding, absolutely. Yeah, and you meet people too, as well. Online, you deepen those relationships, you form squads and everything. Yeah, do you have anything to add as far as like the monetary value of it, or like, well, maybe how it could be bad or anything, or just kind of thumbs up to subscriptions?
It's pretty fair, but it depends on the games. Like you were saying, like the consistency in what you, or the revenue to the developers to fund that, because they're putting in that much work over time. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of matching their efforts more favorably.
matching their efforts. So they better be doing a good job then,
Right.
at least, and being responsive.
And they can also get good data. Like when their subscriptions drop, they know that this content that they're working on is less powerful, less popular rather.
Okay.
And that's something they can watch. And they can definitely see like subscription rates drop between major patches as well. So they're encouraged to release more content quicker.
So I guess that concludes the first episode, our first podcast. We're going to see what we're going to do with this, but we hope that you guys really enjoyed it. Any closing statements that you want to make, or glad to be here, or anything like that, or
My feelings are fairly mediocre on the matter. Being the mediocre dude.
Being the mediocre dude. So, but we're going to try. We're new at this, so we're going to expect things to get better over time. If you really like this, though, definitely give the video a like, and then also make sure to subscribe if you want to keep seeing more videos like this being uploaded. All right, guys, we'll talk to you.
We're out.